Okay, imagine this for a moment. You walk into one of those dusty, high-end antique bookstores.
Hmm.
You go all the way to the back, past the new stuff, and you find a section that, it looks like it hasn't been touched in years.
Right?
And tucked away on a bottom shelf, you find this small, dense, leather-bound book, published way back in 1912.
Wow.
The language is old-fashioned. It's talking about mental chemistry and universal ether. It just looks like a relic. But then you hear a story about this book, a rumor.
And it's one of the most persistent legends in, I guess, the whole self-development world.
The rumor is that a couple of college dropouts, Bill Gaze and Paul Allen, stumbled upon this specific book.
Right.
They read it cover to cover, and then they used the principles inside to, well, anticipate the whole personal computer revolution and build Microsoft?
No, we don't know for sure if that's true.
No, we don't. It could just be, Silicon Valley mythology.
But the fact that the rumor even exists tells you something important about the book's reputation.
It really does.
And whether or not that Microsoft story is historically accurate, the book itself, The Master Key System by Charles F. Haanel, it's survived for over 100 years for a very specific reason. It was doing something completely different from the other self-help books of that time.
It really feels different. I mean, most books from that era, the early 1900s, they were either super religious, preachy.
Or just very abstract.
Yeah, abstract, philosophical, almost like poetry. But Haanel, he writes like an engineer. He claims he's handing you a literal system.
A system, yeah.
He talks about the architecture of the mind. He's not asking you to just believe in something nice. He's asking you to build something functional.
That is the perfect way to frame it.
Yeah.
Haanel was a businessman, based in St. Louis. He wasn't some guru on a mountaintop.
Right.
He saw the mind as a mechanism. This isn't about magic, it's about mechanics. It's really attention engineering, long before that term ever existed.
Attention engineering.
Yeah, it's this fundamental idea that the world within us, our thoughts, our focus, what we see in our mind's eye, is what actually creates the world around us. And he argues, if you can understand the mechanism, you can control the output.
And that is exactly what we're unpacking today. We're looking at episode 1, The Inner Power and the Law of Growth. We're focusing on the introduction and part 1 of Haanel's system. We're going to see if a manual from 1912 can actually help us navigate the distraction and burnout of the 2020s.
It's a really fascinating exploration.
If this episode helps you, please hit like and subscribe for the next one.
So our mission here is really to strip away the mysticism. Haanel argues that the master key is, and this is his phrase, the scientific understanding of spiritual power.
Spiritual is a loaded word for a lot of people.
It is. So for this discussion, let's just look at the mechanics of how thought becomes reality. We're sort of stripping away the woo and looking at the cognitive science of it all.
Even if he didn't have the modern vocabulary for it.
Exactly. We're looking at how this inner power works and something he calls the law of growth.
So let's get right into that, the core concept. It's called the master key system, which implies there's a lock we're all trying to open. What is the key?
Well, his central point seems to be that if you want to change your situation, your money, your health, anything,
Your relationships.
all of it, you're usually looking in the wrong place. We are obsessed with the external.
We're trained to be.
We are. If you have a problem at work, you try to fix the work. A problem with money, you try to force more money to appear.
Right. We move things around. We argue with people. We struggle against the circumstances.
We're trying to change effects by working with effects. But Haanel says the master key is knowing that power, true causal power, it comes from within. He actually writes that weakness comes from depending on help from the outside.
Wow, that's a strong statement. Weakness comes from depending on help from the outside.
It's a huge statement. He's saying that if you're looking for strength or luck or validation from the external world, you are giving away all your leverage.
You're basically saying, I'm a victim of my circumstances.
Exactly. The master key is that shift, from being a victim of circumstance to being the architect of it.
Okay, that sounds great on a bumper sticker. Power comes from within. It's empowering, sure. But let's play devil's advocate for a second.
Please.
Because I think a lot of listeners might just roll their eyes at that. When Haanel says within, what does that actually mean for a modern person with a mortgage and a smartphone addiction and a boss breathing down their neck?
Right.
Is he just talking about daydreaming? Because I can daydream about being a millionaire all day, but that's not going to pay the electric bill.
And that is the crucial distinction. This is where we have to translate that 1912 philosophy into, plain English.
Okay.
He's not talking about fantasy. not wishing. When he talks about the world within, he's talking about three specific, controllable mechanics of the human mind.
Break those down for us.
Okay, so first, it means focus. This is the currency of the information age, and he saw it a century ago. Where do you choose to place your attention? Not where does it drift, but where do you place it?
Attention is currency. That makes total sense. We talk about the attention economy all the time now.
Precisely. If your attention is constantly being hijacked by fear, by the news, by social media, you have no inner power because your main resource is just being drained by the world without.
Okay, so focus is number one. What's second?
Second, within means interpretation, how you decide to frame the events that are happening to you.
Give me an example of that.
Two people can lose a job on the same day. The event itself, the external reality, it's identical.
Yeah.
One person interprets this as a catastrophe, a validation of their worthlessness. They spiral. The other person interprets it as a pivot point.
A necessary shove.
A necessary shove toward a better career they were too scared to take. That interpretation, it happens within. The external world didn't dictate the feeling. The internal processing did.
So the event is basically neutral until we stamp a meaning onto it.
Exactly. And the third mechanic is chosen response. It's that tiny split-second gap between a stimulus like a rude email or a traffic jam and your reaction.
That gap is usually where I fail.
I think it's where most of us fail. The world without pokes us, and we just twitch. That's a robotic existence.
Yeah.
The world within is the ability to widen that gap, to feel the stimulus and then to choose how to respond.
So within isn't some mystical place. It's not a cave in the Himalayas.
No.
It's a control room. It's the operating system of your own psychology.
It is the control room, and Haanel is so emphatic about this. He says the world without is a reflection of the world within. If you have chaos in the control room, conflicting commands, viruses, fear, you are going to get chaos in your life. If you have harmony in the control room, that eventually results in harmonious conditions outside.
That's a scary thought, though, isn't it? It implies total responsibility.
It does.
It means we can't blame the traffic or the economy or our parents or the government for our state of mind.
It is incredibly scary. It's the burden of agency, but it's also liberating.
How so?
Because if the cause is within, then the cure is within too.
Yeah.
If the outside world is just a reflection, you don't have to try to comb the mirror.
You just have to comb your hair.
Exactly.
I like that. Don't comb the mirror. But this leads to the practical side. Because Haanel doesn't just philosophize. He gives exercises. And the very first exercise he gives, step 1 of the Master Key System, I found this fascinating. You open this book expecting secrets on how to influence people or make money. And the first thing he tells you to do is just sit in a chair.
Sit in a chair and do not move.
Literally just sit still for 15 minutes to half an hour. Why is stillness the gateway to all this power? It feels almost passive.
It feels passive because we associate doing with movement. We are addicted to busyness.
True.
But think about that machine analogy again. Imagine you're trying to operate a complex, high-speed precision laser cutter. You can't control that machine if the operator is shaking.
No, you can't.
You can't perform delicate surgery if your hand is trembling. Haanel argues that you have to secure complete control of the physical body before you can even hope to control the mind.
So the fidgeting, the need to check the phone, the tapping foot, the inability to just sit, that's all just leakage.
It's noise.
Yeah.
It's static. Haanel distinguishes between two aspects of the mind. He talks about the objective mind, which is your brain and senses, dealing with the outer world, and the subconscious.
Right.
Now, he uses a term that might confuse modern listeners. He refers to the subconscious as operating through the solar plexus.
Yeah, I wanted to ask about that. When I hear solar plexus, I think of getting punched in the stomach. It sounds a bit dated. What does he actually mean by that?
It's a great question. In 1912, this is a common way to describe what we now understand as the autonomic nervous system and the enteric nervous system, the gut brain. The solar plexus is this massive network of nerves in the abdomen. So Haanel creates a dichotomy. The brain is the organ of the conscious mind. The solar plexus is the organ of the subconscious.
So he's mapping the mind directly to the body.
Exactly. The conscious mind is the captain on the bridge of the ship. The subconscious, the solar plexus, is the engine room.
And the engine room has all the power.
All the power. It runs the heart, digestion, healing, and Haanel argues, habit formation and creativity.
Yeah.
But the engine room is blind. It just takes orders.
And if the captain is running around screaming, the engine room gets confused.
Totally confused. Ideally, the captain gives calm, clear orders. But if The objective mind, the captain, is constantly reacting to every itch, every sound, every physical discomfort, every notification.
A signal gets garbled.
It's just noise. Stillness allows the conscious mind to effectively direct the subconscious without all that static.
That creates such a clear link between the body and mind that I think we often ignore. We think we can just think positive while our bodies are flooded with cortisol and we're twitching with anxiety.
Right.
Haanel is saying, no, stop, sit down. If you can't make your body sit still for 15 minutes, you definitely can't make your mind focus on a business goal for 5 years.
It's the first test of discipline. He says that stillness creates power because it stops the dissipation of energy. Most of us are just leaking energy all day long.
Physically restless, mentally restless.
Exactly. By stopping the physical motion, you bottle that energy. You preserve it so it can be directed toward thought.
So stillness isn't doing nothing, it's the containment of power.
It's the containment of power. It's dynamic, not static.
So let's move to the mechanism of how this change happens once we're still. Haanel introduces something called the law of growth.
This is one of my favorite concepts in the whole text, and it's backed by so much modern neuroscience, even though, he didn't have fMRI machines to prove it.
It seems to suggest that we usually go about change the wrong way. We try to force things with intensity. We pull an all-nighter to finish a project. We go on a crash diet to lose 20 pounds. We try to overhaul our entire personality in a weekend workshop.
But the law of growth says that's just not how nature works. Nature doesn't rush, yet everything is accomplished. You can't plant a seed and then scream at it to grow faster.
Right. You can't pull on the sprout to make it taller.
No. Haanel writes, that much gathers more is true on every plane of existence. He's referencing that biblical principle. To him that has, more shall be given.
Which, to be honest, always sounds a little unfair. It sounds like the rich get richer and the poor get poorer.
It does sound unfair emotionally, but structurally. It's just mechanics. It's like gravity.
Okay.
Loss leads to greater loss. Gain leads to greater gain. It is like compound interest, but for your character. The law of growth favors consistency over intensity. It's not about one giant heroic effort. It's about what you are feeding your mind constantly.
Day in and day out.
Day in and day out.
This reminds me of neural pathways. I've read about how neurons that fire together wire together.
That is exactly what the law of growth is. Every time you think a thought, you are blazing a trail through the forest of your brain. The first time, it's difficult. The path is overgrown. But if you walk that same path every day, if you think that same thought every day, that path becomes a road. Then it becomes a highway. Eventually, it becomes automatic, a superhighway.
And this works for negative thoughts just as much as positive ones.
The law is neutral. It doesn't care what you're growing. If you wake up every morning thinking, I'm so tired, life is so hard, I never get a break, you are reinforcing that neural highway.
You're compounding the debt.
You are. The law of growth says, okay, you want more of this, here you go.
So if I spend 5 minutes visualizing success, doing my affirmations, but then I spend the other 16 hours a day worrying about failure, complaining about my boss, replaying arguments,
then the law of growth is actually working against you.
Right.
That is the critical warning in the text, the danger of contradiction. This is where I think 90% of people fail with these kinds of systems.
They treat mindset like a vitamin they take in the morning.
And then they eat junk food the rest of the day. Exactly.
Yeah, they're watering the weeds while asking for roses.
Perfectly put. You are violating the law of growth. And Haanel is very strict here. We act on the universal mind, or, if you prefer, the subconscious, through our thoughts. If those thoughts are fearful or restrictive or scattered for most of the day, the result by law must be limitation. You can't fool the system.
Thoughts are causes.
And conditions are effects.
You can't change the effect while keeping the cause the same. You can't change the reflection in the mirror without moving your face.
There it is again.
Let's make this practical. We have all this theory, the world within, stillness, the law of growth. How does this actually look in real life?
Yeah.
Because it's easy to talk about controlling your thoughts in a quiet room. It's much harder when life hits you. Let's take a professional environment.
Okay, let's look at work.
Imagine a scenario. Let's call our subject Sarah. She's a project manager, and she feels completely overwhelmed. 50 unread emails, Slack is pinging every 30 seconds, deadline at 5 o'clock.
A very common scenario.
So, typically, Sarah is in what we'd call the world without mode. She's scattered. She's reacting to every email like it's a fire alarm.
Right.
She opens one, gets halfway through, a phone rings, she answers that, then forgets what she was reading. She's just vibrating with anxiety.
That is the scattered approach. She's relying on external pressure to dictate her actions. She feels like a victim of her inbox,
Hmm.
and her subconscious is getting the message, we are under attack, there is no order, panic. So her energy just dissipates. She works hard, she's exhausted, but she accomplishes very little of substance.
So now apply the master key. What does Sarah do differently if she's using Hanel's principles?
Okay, the master key approach starts before she even opens her computer. It starts with the world within.
Okay.
Sarah would establish a mental home of order. She might sit for 5 minutes in the car or at her desk and just visualize the day flowing smoothly. She sees herself handling tasks one by one. She creates a feeling of calm competence.
So she sets the thermostat before the heat rises.
Exactly. Then, when the emails start coming, she maintains that inner stillness. She acts as the gatekeeper. She looks at the inbox and chooses her response.
She doesn't react, she executes.
Right. By keeping the inner world steady, the outer execution becomes precise. She might look calmer. She might even seem to be working slower. But her actions are leveraged by focus. She finishes the day with energy left over because she didn't leak it all in anxiety.
That is a huge difference. It's the difference between being a boat without a rudder and a boat with a captain.
Well said.
Let's try another one. Relationships. That's usually where our inner calm goes to die. So you're in a heated conversation with a partner or a colleague. They just said something that pushes your buttons, they questioned your competence, or they brought up an old grudge.
This is the ultimate test. The outer reliance, the default human setting, is to snap back.
The impulse.
It's the impulse. The solar plexus flares up. You want to manipulate the outside world, in this case, the other person, with force or anger. You want to hurt them back or prove them wrong.
Right, you want to win the argument, dominate the external condition.
But the inner power approach is to maintain harmony within, regardless of the chaos without. You refuse to let their storm enter your control room.
You realize this person is angry, that's their storm.
I don't have to let it rain in my house. You disengage the reaction, you respond, you don't react. Maybe you stay silent, maybe you speak calmly, but you do not match their frequency.
You maintain a polarization of peace, as he might say.
Exactly. And eventually this changes the external dynamic because you refuse to feed the conflict. You are starving the fire of oxygen.
That's the law of growth again. If you don't feed the anger, don't offer it fuel, it just can't grow.
It can't. And usually the other person calms down because they have nothing to push against.
Yeah.
You change the cause, your inner state. So the effect, the argument, has to change.
Third example, habits. This is huge for a lot of people. Someone's trying to start a new health routine, get fit, lose weight, stop doom scrolling.
The common struggle here is what you could call impulse loops. You see the donut, you eat the donut, you see the phone, you open the app.
It's automatic.
Totally automatic. The neural pathway is a superhighway.
So how does the master key fix that? Because willpower usually runs out after about a week.
Right, because willpower is trying to fight the without. The master key is about changing the within. An intentional routine is the result of the conscious mind acting as what Haanel calls the watchman at the gate.
The watchman at the gate. I like that.
It's essential. Every thought, every impulse asks for permission to enter. The watchman says, halt. Who goes there?
So when the impulse to eat the sugar comes up?
The watchman says, does this align with the mental home of health I'm building? The answer is no. So the watchman denies entry. You say, no, that does not belong.
It really all comes back to that word control. Not controlling other people, but controlling the gate of your own mind. It sounds exhausting, though, being a watchman 24/7.
It is exhausting at first, just like it's exhausting to hack a new path through a jungle.
Right.
But remember the law of growth. Every time the watchman stalks an impulse, the impulse highway gets a little weaker, and the discipline highway gets a little stronger. Eventually, the watchman doesn't have to work so hard. It just becomes your new nature.
All right, let's move from theory to practice. I want to invite the listener to actually try this. We'll do a modern adaptation of Haanel's first exercise. Let's call it the Master Key Focus Reset.
This is something you can do right now, wherever you are.
Yeah.
Unless you're driving, of course.
Right. If you're driving, please keep your eyes on the road, but just listen to the process.
Definitely.
So let's walk through the steps. Step 1, sit still. Haanel says you need to relax your body completely.
Find a chair. Sit upright, not slouching, but not rigid. And just let the tension drain out of your muscles. Start at your scalp, go down to your jaw, your shoulders, your hands. Let it all go. And do not move. Just be.
This is harder than it sounds. Your nose will start to itch. You'll want to shift your weight.
Ignore the itch. It's just the body testing the mind to see who's in charge.
Yeah.
Stay still.
Next, step 2. Notice your wandering thoughts. And you don't have to fight them.
This is crucial. Don't try to have a blank mind. That's basically impossible for beginners. Just watch the thoughts. Let them pass like clouds across the sky.
Oh, there's a thought about dinner. There's a thought about that email.
Exactly. Let them float by. Don't engage with them. Don't invite them in for tea.
Step 3, choose one clear intention for the day. Just one.
Yeah, not a to-do list. A state of being. Ask yourself, what quality do I need today? Maybe it's calm, maybe focus, maybe courage. Pick one.
Then step 4, repeat one simple inner statement that matches that intention. Anchor it.
If you chose calm, you could say internally, I am calm, I am at peace. Repeat it. Try to feel the truth of it. Let it sink into that solar plexus.
Step 5, take one aligned action immediately after the exercise. You have to bridge the inner to the outer.
Yes, this brings the thought into reality. If your intention is focus, clear your desk immediately. If it's health, drink a glass of water immediately. Make the physical world obey the mental command.
And finally, step 6, remove one contradiction that would sabotage the intention. You have to stop feeding the opposite.
That last step is so important. If you chose focus, close the social media tab. If you chose calm, turn off the violent news. Don't build the castle and then start digging a hole into the foundation.
Even with these simple instructions, people stumble. Human nature hasn't changed that much since 1912. What usually goes wrong when people try to do this?
I see 5 common mistakes that trip people up. The first one is definitely expecting instant results.
Oh, yeah.
We live in an on-demand world. We want enlightenment in 5 minutes. We want the master key to work like a microwave.
But the law of growth is gradual. It's farming, not microwaving.
Right, so the fix is just patience. Trust the process. The second mistake is physical tension. People try to force their minds to focus while their shoulders are up by their ears and their jaws clenched.
Gritting their teeth, trying
Exactly. The fix. Physical relaxation must come first. You can't force the mind to be quiet if the body is screaming. Spend more time on the body scan if you need to.
Okay, what's number 3?
Mistake number 3 is fighting the mind. People think concentration means clenching their brain and wrestling thoughts to the ground, yelling, "Stop thinking, stop thinking."
Which just creates more noise, internal conflict.
It does. The fix is observation, not suppression. Just watch the thoughts, don't wrestle them. Be the detached observer.
And number 4.
Mistake 4 is focusing on the problem. People sit down to meditate on abundance, but they just end up ruminating on their debt.
Right.
They sit to meditate on health, but they just focus on their pain. They're reinforcing the negative because that's where the groove in the record is deepest.
So the fix is to gently pivot.
Gently pivot. Focus on the desired condition, not the lack of it. Visualize the solution, not the problem. And finally, mistake number 5 is inconsistency.
Doing it once a week for an hour and thinking, that's enough.
It's the Sunday Christian approach to mental training. It just doesn't work. The fix is simple. Short, daily practice beats one long session once a week. 10 minutes a day is so much better than an hour on Sunday.
Consistency is the compound interest.
Always. You're building a mental structure. You lay 1 brick a day. If you stop for a week, the mortar dries out.
Let's consolidate what we've learned. We've covered a lot of ground in this first part of the system.
I have.
We've gone from 1912 St. Louis all the way to modern neuroscience.
Let's boil it down. Here are the key takeaways to carry with you. First, the master key is the understanding that mind is the creator of condition. Next, power comes from within, never from without.
Right.
The world without is a reflection of the world within. Stillness is the first step to controlling your thoughts.
Okay.
The law of growth means what you focus on expands. You must remove mental contradictions to see results. And finally, action is the blossom of thought.
Action is the blossom of thought. I love that. That is a beautiful way to put it. We often think action is the root, that we have to grind and hustle to make things happen. But Haanel is saying action is the fruit that grows naturally if the thought is healthy.
It is the result of the internal work. If the root is healthy, the flower, which is the action, will be healthy. If the root is rotten, the action will be desperate and ineffective.
So now that we've established this foundation of stillness and the world within, what comes next? We're sitting still, we're watching our thoughts, we're trying to control the gate. Then what?
Next time, we look at how to construct the blueprint. We move from stat control to dynamic creation.
We are going to tease episode 2. Imagination and the pattern of mind. We'll get into how to actually design the life you want to build using the faculty of imagination, not as a toy, but as a tool.
It gets really fun from here.
Yeah.
We move from the foundation to the framing.
Thanks for being here. If you want the full series, check the playlist and please like and subscribe so you don't miss the next episode.